The silver ship moved through space like a ghost. Its metal hull shimmered with strange energy that made it invisible to most eyes. Inside the ship, Captain Vexton stood at the command center. His tall, thin body swayed slightly as he watched. The blue and green planet grow larger on the main screen. "Third planet confirmed, Captain," said his science officer. Clareth had 4 arms and skin that changed colors when he was excited. Right now, his skin showed patches of yellow and orange. "The locals call it Earth." Vexton nodded. His people, the Zephyrians, were new to this part of the galaxy. They had been given a simple job by the Galactic Research Consortium. Collect some specimens from the 3rd planet, study them, write a report. Easy work that would pay well. "What do we know about the dominant species?" Vexton asked. Clareth's skin flickered to a calm blue as he checked his datapad. "They call themselves humans. Bipedal mammals. Average height 1.7 meters. They seem to be a fairly new species. Not much data in the galactic database. Perfect. New species are usually easier to handle." Vexton walked closer to the viewing screen. "What do you recommend for specimen collection?" "I suggest we target the smaller ones." Clareth sighed. His skin showed confident green stripes. "The young of most species are less aggressive and easier to transport. They also adapt better to new environments." Vexton smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Excellent thinking. Scan for population centers with high concentrations of young humans." The ship's sensors swept across Earth's surface. They found what they were looking for in a small town called Cedar Falls. The scanner showed a large building surrounded by open space. Small humans ran around outside the building, playing and making noise. "What is that place?" Vexton asked. "It appears to be some kind of learning facility for their offspring," Clareth reported. "The human young gather there during daylight hours." "How many small humans are there?" "Current count shows approximately 200 juveniles in the area." Vexton felt pleased. This would be easier than he thought. "Prepare the transport beam. We'll take 6 specimens. That should be enough for our research." Far across the galaxy, Ambassador Thrillax was having a normal day at the Galactic Council Station. The 4-eyed diplomat from the Andromedan Alliance was reviewing trade reports when his communication device started beeping rapidly. "Ambassador," his assistant said, rushing into the office. "Emergency transmission from the outer sectors." Thrillax accepted the call, and a worried face appeared on his screen. It was Captain Mordall, a trader from the hegemony who worked the human territories. "Thrillax, thank the stars I reached you," Mordell said quickly. "There's a Zephyrian research ship heading toward human space. You have to stop them." "What's the concern?" Thrillax asked. "The Zephyrians have permission for specimen collection in that sector." Mordall's face went pale. "You don't understand. They're planning to take human specimens. If they touch even one human, especially the young ones." Thrillax felt all 4 of his eyes widen in horror. He had been in galactic politics for over 50 years. He knew the stories about humans. Every alien species that had survived contact with them knew the rules. Never threaten them. Never harm them. And above all, never touch their children. "Get me a direct line to that Zephyrian ship," Thrillax said urgently. "Now." "I tried," Mordell said. "They're already in hyperspace. Communications are blocked." Thrillax's hands shook as he reached for his emergency transmitter. He had to warn every ship in that sector. Maybe someone could intercept the Zephyrians before they made the worst mistake in galactic history. Back on Earth, the children at Cedar Falls Elementary were enjoying their lunch break. 8-year-old Jake Morrison was playing soccer with his friends. 9-year-old Amy Carter was reading a book under a tree. 7-year-old Ben Phillips was climbing on the playground equipment. 8-year-old Lisa Wong was showing her friend Kate Sullivan how to fold paper airplanes. 9-year-old Chris Martinez was helping some younger kids with their games. None of them noticed the shimmer in the air above the playground. The Zephyrian transport being was silent and invisible. It reached down from their ship like an invisible hand. One moment, the 6 children were playing and laughing. The next moment, they simply vanished. Mrs. Peterson, the playground supervisor, blinked in confusion. She could have sworn she saw Jake and his friends right there a second ago. She looked around the playground, counting heads. Something was wrong. Has anyone seen Jake Morrison? She called out. The other children looked around. No one had seen Jake leave. Or Amy, or Ben, Lisa, Chris, or Kate. Mrs. Peterson felt a cold fear in her stomach. She ran toward the school building, shouting for help. Aboard the silent harvester, the 6 human children materialized in a white room with smooth walls. They looked around in confusion and fear. The room was empty except for some strange furniture and a large window that showed stars outside. Jake was the first to speak. "Where are we?" Amy stood up slowly, looking at the window. "I think we're on a spaceship." Ben started to cry. Kate moved closer to Lisa, who was staring at everything with wide eyes. Chris was already walking around the room, testing the walls. "The door won't open," Chris said after trying to push it. Jake took a deep breath. His father had always told him to stay calm when things got scary. "Okay, everyone listen. We need to stick together. We need to be smart about this." Amy nodded. "Jake's right. Let's figure out what's happening before we panic." Outside their room, Captain Vexton watched the human children through a monitor. "They're adapting quickly," he noted. "Most species would still be in shock." Dr. Clarith was already taking notes. "Fascinating. The young humans are displaying immediate organizational behavior. The larger male appears to be assuming a leadership role. Begin the standard tests tomorrow," Vexton ordered. "For now, let them rest." Neither alien realized they were watching the beginning of their own downfall. The children they thought were helpless specimens were already planning. Jake was memorizing the room's layout. Amy was studying the door mechanism. Chris was teaching. The others' hand signals he remembered from a spy movie. They had no idea that across the galaxy, their disappearance was about to trigger the largest military response in human history. The biggest mistake in Zephyrian history had just been made. Ambassador Threolak's 4 hands moved frantically across his communication panel. Red warning lights flashed across his office as he sent emergency messages to every corner of the galaxy. His assistant had never seen the normally calm diplomat in such a panic. "Priority alert to all shipping in Sector 7. Threlak spoke rapidly into his transmitter. "Zephyrian vessel has committed act of war against human space. All ships avoid the area immediately." His assistant, a young Rigelian named Vort, looked confused. "Sir, it's just a research mission. Why are you calling it an act of war?" Threlak stopped typing and stared at his assistant with all 4 eyes. "Vort, how long have you worked in galactic politics?" 3 months, sir. And you haven't heard the stories." Threlax turned back to his console. 50 years ago, the Dominion Empire controlled 12 star systems. They were powerful, wealthy, and feared across the galaxy. What happened to them? They captured 1 human, 1 adult male who was working as a trader in neutral space. They wanted to study human physiology. Threlax's voice grew quiet. 6 months later, the Dominion Empire no longer existed. Vort's purple skin went pale. 1 human caused that much damage? No, young one. 1 human caused the other humans to respond. They didn't just rescue their person. They dismantled every Dominion fleet, destroyed their space stations, and forced their government to surrender. The surviving Dominion worlds are still paying war reparations to human colonies. But, sir, that was an adult. These are just children. Thralax's hands stopped moving completely. He turned to face his assistant with an expression of pure horror. Children? They took human children? He grabbed his emergency communicator. This is worse than I thought. Meanwhile, at the Nexus Prime trading station, Captain Mordal was causing his own panic. The experienced trader stood in the main cantina, addressing a crowd of ship captains from dozens of different species. Listen to me, all of you, Mordal shouted over the noise. I've been trading in human space for 20 years. I've seen what they do to people who threaten their families. A Korthian captain laughed. Come on, Mordal. They're just another species. How dangerous can they be? Mordal's face grew serious. Captain Veltar, remember the Slaver Guild? The laughter stopped. Every being in the cantina knew that name. The Slaver Guild had been the most feared criminal organization in the galaxy. The Guild made the mistake of taking human colonists for their slave markets, Mordal continued. They thought humans would make good workers because they were strong and smart. Within 1 year, the humans had not only escaped, but convinced every other slave species to rebel. The Guild's entire network collapsed from the inside. That's just one story, another captain said. Fine, here's another one. The hive mind of Kepler 5 decided to add humans to their collective consciousness. They captured a human exploration ship. The humans didn't just resist the mind control. They somehow turned it around and took control of part of the hive mind instead. It took the hive 3 years to purge the human influence from their system. The cantina was completely quiet now. And now, Mordal said slowly, some fool Zephyrians have taken human children. Not adults, children. He shook his head. We're about to witness the largest military response in galactic history. Back on Earth, chaos was spreading through Cedar Falls Elementary School. Principal Martinez was on the phone with the FBI while teachers searched every room, closet, and hiding spot they could think of. The 6 missing children seemed to have vanished into thin air. Agent Ryan Cooper arrived within 2 hours. He was a tall man with graying hair who specialized in unusual disappearances. Sheriff Beth Adams met him at the school entrance. What do we know? Cooper asked. 6 children vanished during lunch break, Adams replied. No witnesses saw them leave. Security cameras show them playing 1 second, then the next frame they're gone. Cooper examined the playground area. He found no footprints leading away, no signs of struggle, and no evidence of vehicles. But his radiation detector was picking up strange energy signatures in the air above where the children had been playing. Sheriff, I need you to clear the area and call the state emergency line. Ask for Commander Harrison. Harrison? I've never heard of him. He handles cases that officially don't exist. 1 hour later, Commander Luke Harrison arrived in an unmarked black helicopter. He was a younger man with sharp eyes and the bearing of someone who had seen impossible things. After examining Cooper's findings, he made a secure phone call. This is Harrison. We have a Code 7 situation. Yes, sir. Multiple juveniles. Unknown energy signatures consistent with non-terrestrial technology. Meanwhile, aboard the Silent Harvester, Dr. Clarith was beginning his research. He watched the human children through hidden cameras, taking detailed notes. The specimens had organized themselves within hours. The one called Jake had somehow figured out the dimensions of their room by pacing. Amy was studying the door mechanism and had already identified its weak points. Ben was testing every surface for loose panels or hidden openings. Most interesting were Lisa and Chris. Lisa had found a small maintenance port behind some furniture and was examining its connections. Chris was teaching the others a complex series of hand signals that seemed to be some kind of communication system. Captain, Clarith called over the intercom. These specimens are behaving most unusually. How so? They show no signs of long-term psychological trauma. Instead, they appear to be conducting reconnaissance of their environment and establishing command protocols. Captain Vexton joined his science officer at the observation station. On the screen, they watched Jake organizing the other children into what looked like work teams. "Are you certain these are juveniles?" Vexton asked. "The biological scans confirmed their age range from 7 to 9 years, Clarith replied. "But their behavior suggests military or survival training. Perhaps their species develops faster than our data indicates." Neither alien realized they were watching normal human children doing what human children had always done when faced with problems: adapt, organize, and figure out solutions. The same instincts that had helped their species survive ice ages, plagues, and wars were now focused on escaping an alien spaceship dock in the children's room. Jake was holding a quiet meeting with the others. "Okay, here's what we know," he whispered. "We're on a spaceship. The door is locked, but Lisa thinks she can mess with those wires behind the wall panel. The aliens are watching us, but Chris found 3 spots where the cameras can't see us." Amy nodded. "My dad always said that if someone kidnaps you, the first thing to do is gather information. We need to learn about this ship and find out where they're taking us." Kate, the youngest, raised her hand. "What if our parents are looking for us?" Jake smiled at her. "Kate, this is planet Earth we're talking about. If aliens took kids from our school, every government on the planet is probably looking for us right now." He was more right than he knew. At that very moment, emergency meetings were being held in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and every other major capital on Earth. Humanity was about to discover that their children had been taken by aliens, and the galaxy was about to learn why that was the worst mistake anyone could make. Commander Harrison stood in the briefing room of the most secret military base on Earth. Around the table sat his best people: assault specialist Megan Torres, intelligence officer Sam Mitchell, and pilot Danny Carter. On the wall behind him, a star map showed the last known position of the alien ship. "Ladies and gentlemen, 6 American children have been taken by hostile aliens," Harrison said. "Our job is to bring them home." Megan Torres was a short woman with scars on her hands from too many dangerous missions. "What kind of firepower are we talking about, Commander?" "Unknown. Our best guess is they're researchers, not warriors. But we're not taking chances." Harrison pointed to another screen showing a sleek black ship. "We're taking the Retribution. Full stealth capability, experimental weapons, and enough speed to catch anything in known space." Sam Mitchell, a thin man with sharp eyes, raised his hand. "Sir, what about diplomatic contact? Maybe we can negotiate." Harrison's expression grew cold. "The time for diplomacy ended when they took our kids. This is a rescue mission, and if the aliens want to make it a war, we're ready for that too." Across the galaxy, the emergency session of the Nexus Council was in chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Hall, all talking at once. Ambassador Throulax stood at the center podium, trying to restore order. "Silence," he shouted, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We have a crisis that threatens every species in this galaxy." A delegate from the newly contacted Xerian Republic stood up. "Ambassador, we don't understand the panic. The Zephyrians took specimens for research. This happens all the time." Thrillax felt tired. These new species didn't understand what they were dealing with. "Delegate Koresh, let me tell you about humans. 40 years ago, the Titan Collective decided to test human military capabilities. They attacked one small human colony with a single destroyer, thinking it would be an easy victory. What happened?" Koresh asked. "The humans didn't just fight back. They tracked down every Titan ship in that fleet. Then they found the Titan home world. Then they found the Titan's secret military bases. The war lasted 6 months and ended with the entire Titan collective begging for peace. Another delegate laughed. That's impossible. No single species could defeat the Titan collective. Captain Mortal stepped forward from the observer section. I was there. I saw human ships tear through Titan battle cruisers like they were made of paper. And that was just for attacking one small colony. His voice grew quieter. These aliens took human children, not colonists, not soldiers, children. The laughter stopped. Every human parent, grandparent, uncle, aunt, and family friend is now personally motivated to find these aliens, Mordell continued. And humans don't fight like other species. They don't just want to win. They want to make sure no one ever tries this again. Meanwhile, aboard the Silent Harvester, the situation was getting worse by the hour. Ben Phillips had discovered something amazing. The alien door locks worked by reading electronic signals, and if he touched the control panel in just the right way, he could make them think they were receiving the unlock code. How did you figure that out? Amy asked as Ben opened their room. Door for the 3rd time. Ben shrugged. It's like the electronic locks at my dad's work. They all work basically the same way. Lisa Wong had made an even more interesting discovery. While exploring the hallways during shift changes, she found a computer terminal that the aliens had left logged in. Using simple logic and watching the alien guards use similar terminals, she had begun to understand their basic computer language. Look. At this, she whispered to Jake, during one of their secret meetings in a camera blind spot, I downloaded these files. They're star charts showing where we are and where the ship is going. Jake looked at the alien symbols on the small device. Lisa had built from spare parts she found around the ship. Can you figure out how to send a message? I think so. But we need to get to a bigger computer terminal. That's where Chris Martinez came in. Over the past 3 days, he had been watching the alien guards and learning their routines. The bridge. Computer is only guarded by one alien during the night cycle, he told them. If we can create a distraction, 2 people could get up there. Amy smiled. What kind of distraction? Remember the maintenance robots Ben reprogrammed? What if they all started cleaning the same hallway at the same time and got in the guards' way? Kate Sullivan, despite being the youngest, had been doing her own important work. She had incredible memory for patterns and had mapped out the entire ship by listening to sounds and counting steps. There are 17 aliens on this ship, she reported. 3 of them never leave the bridge. 4 work in the engine room. The rest patrol or work in the lab. Only 17? Jake asked. That's not very many for a ship this size. That's what I thought too. Kate said Dr. Clareth was having the worst week of his scientific career. His research logs, which had started as routine observations, now read like horror stories. Day 4. The human specimens have established complete territorial control over Deck 3. They have somehow reprogrammed our maintenance systems to respond to their commands. 3 of my research assistants refused to enter that section of the ship. Day 5. The specimens have learned to open security doors. We have changed the lock codes twice. It doesn't matter. Day 6. I believe the youngest specimen has memorized our entire ship layout. She has been seen in sections that should be impossible for her to reach. Captain Vexton reviewed these reports with growing horror. How is this possible? They're juveniles of a primitive species. Sir, Clareth said carefully, I'm beginning to think our database on humans is incomplete. At that moment, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. On his command screen, Vexton saw the 3 maintenance robots were blocking the main corridor, spinning in circles and making loud noises. His guards were trying to shut them down, but the robots seemed to be ignoring their commands. What's happening? Vex then demanded. Unknown, sir. The robots appear to be malfunctioning. While the guards dealt with the robot problem, Jake and Amy were quietly making their way to the ship's bridge. They moved through maintenance shafts that Kate had shown them, following a route that avoided all the alien patrol paths. You sure about this? Amy whispered as they climbed through a narrow tunnel. We need to contact Earth, Jake replied. My dad always said that when you're in trouble, the most important thing is to let people know where you are. They reached the bridge access tunnel just as Amy's watch showed it was time for the night shift change. Below them, they could see the bridge through a maintenance grate. 3 aliens sat at different control stations, but they all seemed distracted by the robot chaos happening on the lower decks. Jake carefully removed the grate while Amy prepared the communication device Lisa had built. They had one chance to send a signal toward Earth before the aliens figured out what was happening. Amy plugged Lisa's device into what looked like the main communication array. Strange symbols appeared on her small screen as the device connected to the alien computer system. Got it, she whispered. Signal is transmitting. At that exact moment, Captain Vex then realized that the robot malfunction was not a malfunction at all. It was a distraction. And if it was a distraction, that meant the human specimens were doing something else somewhere else. Computer, locate all human specimens immediately, he ordered. 2 human life signs detected on the bridge level, the computer replied. Vex then felt his blood go cold. Human children were on his bridge, accessing his ship's communication systems. He finally understood what every other species in the galaxy already knew. He had made the worst mistake of his life. The space around the silent harvester suddenly filled with ships. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them. They appeared out of hyperspace like angry thunder, their weapons powered and shields raised. At the center of the fleet, the massive Dreadnought Vengeance cut through space like a knife. Admiral Ashley Kane stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the alien vessel on the main screen. Behind her, officers worked frantically at their stations, coordinating the largest human military operation in history. Admiral, we have the target locked, reported Captain Torres from the Retribution. No signs of weapons or defensive systems. Don't let that fool you, Kane replied. They were smart enough to take our children without being detected. Assume they have surprises. She opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. All ships, remember the mission. We want our kids back alive. Everything else is secondary. The response was immediate. Ships from every human colony had answered the call. Earth Defense Force vessels flew alongside colonial militia ships. Even civilian freighters had been armed and pressed into service. Parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunts had all demanded to join the search. On the observation deck of the Vengeance, Commander Harrison watched through the viewports as more ships continued to arrive. How many do we have now? He asked Sam. Mitchell, over 800 combat vessels, sir. And more are coming. Harrison shook his head in amazement. 800 ships for 6 children. Sir, with respect, I think you're missing the point, Mitchell said quietly. This isn't about 6 children. This is about what happens to anyone who thinks they can take human children. We're making sure this never happens again. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council emergency session, panic had reached new levels. Ambassador. Thrillax received reports every few minutes about more human ships joining the search fleet. The humans have mobilized over 800 warships, he announced to the assembled delegates. This is larger than most species' entire space navies. Zarian delegate Koresh was no longer laughing. For 6 individuals? You still don't understand, said Captain Mordell from the observer section. Humans don't think like other species. When someone threatens their family, every human becomes personally involved. Right now, there are probably billions of humans who consider this their personal fight. On the main communication screen, a new transmission came in. It was from the Hegemony High Command. Galactic Council, this is Admiral Toxmar of the Hegemony Fleet. We are offering full military support to human forces in this matter. Before anyone could respond, another transmission arrived. This one was from the Andromedan Alliance. The Alliance pledges complete assistance to human rescue operations. Our ships are moving to support positions. More messages flooded in. The Centauri Federation offered medical support. The Rigel Trade Union offered supply lines. Even the mighty Titan Collective, despite their past conflicts with humanity, sent a message of support. By the void, whispered Delegate Koresh. The entire galaxy is taking sides with the humans. Now you're beginning to understand, Thorlax said grimly. No one wants to be seen as supporting child kidnappers. And no one wants humans to think. It might be next. Aboard the Silent Harvester, complete chaos had erupted. Captain Vexton ran through the corridors, trying to regain control of his ship. But everywhere he went, he found more evidence of the human children's takeover. The engine room was now controlled by Chris Martinez, who had somehow convinced the other alien prisoners to help him. The maintenance systems answered to Ben Phillips, who had turned the ship's own robots against their creators. The computer networks belonged to Lisa Wong, who was downloading everything she could find. Captain, Dr. Clarith called over the intercom from his barricaded laboratory. The specimens have released all the other prisoners we collected from various worlds. They're all working together now. Vexton reached the bridge to find his crew huddled in one corner, while Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair, calmly reading star charts on the main screen. Amy Carter stood beside him, working at a communication station. How is this possible? Vexton demanded. Your children. Jake looked up from the star charts with the serious expression of someone much older. Mister, you made a big mistake. You took kids from Earth. Our parents are probably really mad right now. As if summoned by his words, the ship's communication system activated. A strong female voice filled the bridge. Alien vessel, this is Admiral Ashley Kane of the Earth Defense. Force, you have 60 seconds to surrender and return our children, or we will take them back by force. Vexton felt his legs go weak. Through the main viewports, he could see the human fleet surrounding his ship. There were so many vessels that they blocked out the stars. Captain, his communications officer said in a shaky voice, we're receiving a transmission from Zephyrian High Command. Put it through, Vexton said, hoping for rescue. The face that appeared on screen was not friendly. Supreme Commander Kelder looked at Vexton with disgust. Captain Vexton, the Zephyrian Republic hereby denies all knowledge of your actions. Your ship registration is revoked, your citizenship is cancelled, and you are formally exiled from our territory. Do not return to Zephyrian space. The transmission ended, leaving Vexton staring at a blank screen. His own government had abandoned him. Almost immediately, another transmission came through. This one showed the four-eyed face of Ambassador Thorlax. Captain Vexton, this is your only warning. The humans are offering you one chance to surrender. Take it, return their children immediately and unharmed, and they might show mercy. And if I don't? Vexton asked. Thorlax's expression grew sad. Then you will learn why the Dominion Empire no longer exists. You will discover why the Slaver Guild collapsed. You will understand why every intelligent species in this galaxy knows never to threaten human families. Jake Morrison stood up from the captain's chair and walked over to where Vexton was standing. Despite being only 8 years old, he looked the alien captain directly in the eyes. Mister, I think you should listen to the nice ambassador. My dad is a Marine, and he taught me that there are two kinds of people in the universe. Those who protect kids, and those who threaten them. Guess which kind you are? Amy joined him, holding the communication device that was still connected to the ship's transmitter. We've already sent a signal to Earth with our location and status. We also downloaded all your computer files about this ship and your people. Our parents probably know everything about you by now. Kate Sullivan, the youngest of the group, stepped forward. We also freed all the other people you kidnapped. They're all really angry, too. Through the bridge speakers, Admiral Kane's voice returned. Alien vessel, your time is up. Surrender now or face the consequences. Vex then looked around his bridge. Human children controlled his ship. His government had disowned him. The most powerful military force in galactic history surrounded him. And apparently, every other species in the galaxy was supporting the humans. For the first time in his life, he understood what the older species had been trying to tell everyone. Humans weren't just another spacefaring race. They were something far more dangerous. They were a species that would cross the galaxy and mobilize hundreds of warships for 6 children. They were a species that never forgot, never forgave, and never stopped protecting their own. And he had just made himself their enemy. Captain Vex then stood in the middle of his own bridge, surrounded by human children who had somehow taken control of his entire ship. Outside the viewports, hundreds of human warships waited for his answer to their ultimatum. I surrender, he said quietly. Jake Morrison nodded. Amy, tell the Admiral we're ready for pickup. Amy Carter activated the communication system. Admiral Kane, this is Amy Carter. We have secured the ship and locked up the bad guys. The other prisoners are safe, and we're ready to come home. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Kane stared at her communications officer in amazement. Did that little girl just say they secured the ship? Yes, ma'am. They're requesting pickup. Kane shook her head and smiled. Well, I'll be damned. Send in the boarding teams, but tell them to be gentle. Sounds like our kids have everything under control. Commander Harrison led the first boarding party onto the Silent Harvester. What he found inside was unlike anything he had expected. The alien crew was locked in their own grid, looking defeated and scared. The other prisoners, creatures from a dozen different worlds, were free and helping the human children organize. The ship's systems. Commander Harrison? Jake Morrison approached him with a confident smile. I'm Jake. We've been waiting for you. Harrison looked around the corridor. Maintenance robots moved supplies under the direction of Ben Phillips. Lisa. Wong was downloading files at a computer terminal. Chris Martinez was showing alien prisoners how to operate the ship's communications. Kate Sullivan was drawing maps of the ship's layout for the human soldiers. Son, how did you manage all this? Harrison asked. We worked together, Jake replied. Amy figured out their security systems. Lisa learned their computer language. Chris organized everyone. Then we programmed their robots. Kate mapped the whole ship. Amy joined them, carrying a datapad filled with information. Commander, we downloaded everything about their ship, their people, and their government. We also learned about other species they've been studying. You kids did intelligence gathering? My mom works for the State Department, Amy said. She taught me that information is the most important thing in any crisis. Harrison accepted the data, pad, and looked through the files. Star charts, ship designs, government structures, military capabilities. The children had collected more intelligence in a few days than most spy agencies gathered in months. This is incredible work, he said. You kids should be proud. Doctor. Clareth was brought before Admiral Kane in shackles. The Zephyrian scientist looked broken and defeated. I want to understand something, Kane said. You're supposed to be intelligent researchers. How did 6 human children overpower your entire crew? Clareth's skin showed colors of shame and confusion. Admiral, we studied hundreds of species. We thought we understood how juveniles behave. We expected fear, crying, helplessness. He paused. Instead, we found organization, planning, and determination. They turned our own ship against us. And now you understand why every other species in the galaxy warned you not to touch human children. Yes, Clarith said quietly. Now I understand. 3 days later, Jake Morrison was back in his classroom at Cedar Falls Elementary, working on a math problem. His teacher, Mrs. Johnson, had been amazed by his calm attitude about the whole experience. Jake, don't you want to talk about what happened? She asked during recess. Not really, Jake said. We handled it. We came home. Now we're back to normal. Life. But you were kidnapped by aliens, Jake shrugged. My dad always said that when bad things happen, you deal with them and move on. That's what we did. Across the playground, Amy Carter was reading a book about space exploration. Ben Phillips was building something complicated with blocks. Lisa Wong was teaching her friends basic computer programming. Chris Martinez was organizing a game of Capture the Flag. Kate Sullivan was drawing detailed maps of the school grounds. Not to anyone watching. They looked like normal children. But their teachers noticed changes. They solved problems faster. They worked together better. They showed leadership skills that seemed beyond their years. The real changes were happening far from Earth. At the Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador Threelax was updating the official database on human beings. Species, Homo sapiens, he dictated to his assistant. Threat level, extreme. Special notes. Under no circumstances should human offspring be threatened, captured, or harmed. Previous assessments of human military capabilities have been revised. Upward following the Cedar Falls incident. Sir, what should we say about the children's behavior during captivity? His assistant asked. Add this. Human juveniles display advanced problem-solving abilities, natural leadership instincts, and tactical thinking that rivals trained military personnel. They should be considered as dangerous as human adults when threatened. The Nexus. Council passed new laws requiring all member species to receive mandatory education about human protective instincts. The Zephyrian Republic issued formal apologies and paid massive reparations to Earth. Captain Vexthan and his crew were sentenced to life imprisonment on a prison planet, with the understanding that they were lucky to be alive. The story of the Cedar Falls 6, as they became known, spread throughout the galaxy. It became a cautionary tale told to young aliens about the species that lived on the third planet in the Sol system. On trading stations and diplomatic outposts, the story was always the same. 6 human children, ages 7 to 9, had been kidnapped by alien researchers. Within days, they had taken control of an entire starship, freed other prisoners, gathered intelligence, and contacted their rescue fleet. The human response had been swift and overwhelming. 800 warships for 6 children. The galaxy learned several important lessons from the incident. First, humans would go to any length to protect their young. Second, human children were not helpless victims, but capable individuals who could adapt and fight back. Third, threatening human families was not just dangerous. It was effectively a declaration of war against one of the most powerful species in known space. Captain Mortal, now considered an expert on human behavior, often gave lectures to new spacers about the rules of human contact. His final rule was always the same: never, under any circumstances, threaten human children. If you do, you won't be fighting just one human or one family. You'll be fighting all of humanity, and they never forget. Years later, when Jake Morrison graduated from high school, he was accepted to the Space Academy. In his entrance essay, he wrote, "I learned early that the universe can be a dangerous place. But I also learned that humans take care of their own. Whether you're facing alien kidnappers or any other threat, the most important thing is to work together, stay calm, and never give up. The galaxy had learned its lesson. In the official records of dozens of species, a new entry appeared. Humans, Addendum 1247. Species demonstrates extreme protective behavior toward offspring. Threat assessment revised to maximum level. Recommendation: complete avoidance of any action that could be interpreted as threatening to human children. The children of Earth could sleep safely, knowing that somewhere in the stars, every alien species in the galaxy understood one simple truth: you don't mess with human kids.